G'day there. You're watching the Aussie BIM Guru, and today I've got a video that has actually been requested by quite a lot of people on the channel, and that is looking at my career journey through BIM Consulting. Now, I'm about 2.5 years into my journey as a consultant at the moment, and I feel it's about the right time where I can probably start talking to my experience a little bit. So I've had maybe 2 or 3 people in the last week mention it, but over the years I have had people say, can you tell me more about being a BIM consultant, what it's like, tips for actually doing it yourself, and also just generally what I get up to as an example. So this is a follow-on from, I guess, part 1 of my career journey in a video called BIM Management, My Journey. Feel free to check it out if you haven't already. I go into quite a lot of detail about the various layers of the industry I went through from a graduate all the way up to a BIM manager. And finally, at the end of the video, I do mention that I am moving into BIM consulting at the time. So of course, now I'm actually looking back on that moment about 2.5 years later. As always, with these types of videos, my opinions don't reflect those of my employers and also more specifically my clients. These are my own personal opinions that I'm expressing anywhere in here. All the clients I've worked with, I've really enjoyed working with, and anything that reflects negatively is not intended. There are some lessons I did mention quite strongly in my previous video, and they're all still relevant. Building a business is entirely built on risk. You're not going out there with a calculation that is already checked out and you know you're guaranteed going to make money. You're always taking a risk, and to be honest, if you're making a business, you should be. If you don't feel like you're taking a risk, then you probably haven't calculated it. But typically risk is required for reward in this type of work. As well as that, to be a consultant, you're going to need a lot of experience. I see a lot of people trying to become consultants way too early in the industry. Your motivator to be a consultant shouldn't be the fact that you hate your industry or you hate the way that companies work in it, especially if you're very early on in your industry. This is something you're going to have to commit to quite closely, and you're also going to have to make sure your clients are convinced that you can actually deliver a service for them. Because in line with my third takeoff from my previous video, clothes don't make the man. Just because you put on a flash suit or you look really good on a website doesn't mean your clients are going to trust you. They need to know what you can actually do in order to actually have confidence in you and let you prove yourself at least once to them before they're willing to work with you again. Anyway, just to briefly recap on my current career journey to how I got to where I am. I'm going to do it in pretty much one slide, but I graduated from university in 2012 with a master's degree in architecture and worked on a very large project, a $2 billion hospital in my hometown of Adelaide as a BIM technician, and then eventually transitioned into a BIM manager role through that same company and moved to Sydney during that process as well. I did recognize during that time that I hadn't really diversified my experience enough, so I decided to step to some different companies and get different experiences in BIM, specifically focused around project coordination. So I worked on a rural hospital with HDR, and I worked on a commercial tower with Woods Bagot, and finally had a brief stint in BIM management at Crone Architects, before in 2020, well actually end of 2019, I decided that I'd collected enough experience and also had something going in the background, my YouTube channel, which was helping establish me as someone in the industry people were comfortable coming to for advice. On the back of that, I decided it was time to become a consultant. So this presentation is mostly going to cover my experience working as a BIM consultant and starting up a business, what it required, and also the general types of clients I serviced, some of the things that surprised me along the way, and some general recommendations or lessons learnt, and some suggestions if you are looking to start up your own business or become a consultant as well. So I'm specifically focusing on 5 key points here. First of all, how I got started and the cost involved in that process. I will just tell you exactly how much it cost. But this is unique to my business. Obviously, every business is different. I'm a sole trader, I work on my own. So as a result, my overheads are quite low compared to what you might be paying if you manage a full-on company with 5 or 6 people, for example. I'm also going to talk briefly about how to get clients. To be honest, my method of getting clients is very direct. My YouTube channel really is a fantastic way of showing clients what I can do without really having to spend any extra time to convince them. I'll talk about how it compares to being a BIM manager probably along the way. It is a very different sort of take on the industry, and it does come with some traps and challenges to be aware of as you progress through your own journey as a BIM consultant. but ultimately I'm going to be focusing on what it's like to work as a BIM consultant in this case. Now, I'm not really going to touch on things like what are my fees that I charge, how much money do I make compared to being a BIM manager. I will tell you it is good money if you do it properly, but I cannot guarantee you will be successful as a BIM consultant. Everyone's different. I know some people that have absolutely bombed out as BIM consultants and went straight back to the industry after making almost no money because they couldn't get any clients. Or maybe they didn't get the insurance they needed and then they actually got sued. I know a couple of horror stories as well. But anyway, I predominantly became a consultant for a variety of reasons, but mainly I did want to help more people at once than just what I could do within one company at a time. I wanted also the ability to openly express my opinions and myself, especially given that my channel was growing and I needed a platform where I could feel comfortable in not reflecting poorly on any other businesses I might be working for at the time. So by sort of jettisoning away from businesses, I was able to let my business actually be a mouthpiece for myself as well. Ultimately, I wanted to challenge myself as well. I recognized I was taking on very similar everyday tasks in my role as a BIM manager and decided that I would get more challenge and variety as a consultant. So I was ultimately also just trying to broaden my horizons and my perspective of what I saw the industry as, and all of those things luckily worked out. Yes, as well as this, I wanted to get paid to do all these things as well, and make more money, and I'm glad to say that I did. It was a fairly lucrative set of years so far and continues to be. Having said that, your fees, if you are a consultant, should be determined on what you think your time is worth. Don't necessarily measure your time by hour, but do keep in mind that you need to think about what people should be willing to pay for your time and also what you're willing to charge. I can't give you that number. That's up to you, your market, your competitors. You must research that. So this is sort of how I laid out my business when I first started. What are my goals? I looked at computational design, modeling and templating, strategic services, so fully off the tools, and also project coordination and education. In reality, it ended up a little bit more like this. A majority of my services, I would say about 40 to 50%, were focused predominantly around working actively with templating and content delivery. In some regards, I'm pleased that my expertise was harnessed, but at the same time, I am a little bit concerned that most of the industry is still very much focused on Revit templates and Revit content. At least when they come to consultants, this does still seem to be something most of the industry is catching up on. Having said that, I do get some experience with strategy where I can deal with more interesting topics such as open data standards and how people can actually take something that doesn't necessarily work right now and start working towards a goal that does in future. I've done a bit of training and education and some course platform development on a paid basis, and also built a variety of scripts and computational solutions for a bunch of clients. But I haven't really done any BIM project coordination, and the reason for that is I am a sole trader. So typically they'd be looking for a larger company with more people, so they can guaranteed have someone available whenever they need them. So starting a business was an interesting process, roughly what I expected with some surprises along the way. There are some key steps and processes that I recommend you follow when starting your business. The first part, which everyone misses, so I call it step 0, because you should really do it before you even think about making a business, is to plan it out. Really importantly, who are your clients going to be and what services are you going to be providing to them is one of the most important things to define. If you can't answer that question, don't do it, because that's one of the reasons that you should be going into consulting. You should have a desire to service a certain type of client and provide them a certain type of service. As well as that, what is your competition? How much money is there to be made in this market you're going into? And on the back of that, what model does your business follow? Is it a single person, multiple people? What type of services are you providing? Are they ad hoc or are they regular? Are you on retainer models? Lots of things to think about. How much money do you want to make? You need to find out if your business is actually going to sustain your lifestyle. Early on, I laid out all of these things in a business plan. Whilst the business plan didn't help me too much beyond the point where I wrote it, it did help me at least get my head in the right space to appreciate that I'm running a business, trying to make money, and trying to make my way through the industry on my own as a sole trader, which was my business model. But also just figure out why people will come to you or how they'll come to you. Because if they won't, again, there's no point in starting a business. You need to be accessible and you need to be findable. The next step after that is really important as well, and that is to register a lot of things that a business needs. So if you're in the Australian market, you'll need to register your business name and ABN first of all. Otherwise, your business doesn't exist and you can't do business or you can't send invoices. At the same time as well, eventually you need to register for GST or goods and services tax. Once you exceed $75,000 of anticipated income, this will become a part of how you have to invoice your clients with tax invoices, and it does happen quite quickly when you consult. There are other things like PO boxes, domains, and websites, and of course software. And I have to say, 100%, do not pirate any software if you are responsible for your business. You are 100% liable. If you get audited and anything goes wrong, you are going to be up for grabs from whichever vendor it is. Now, we know the big vendor in the industry for BIM, they can and will come after you and you will lose money. I know one person who got done in this way and they basically can't run a business anymore because of it. It's pretty bad. If we associate some costs to this, you'll notice that most of them are pretty manageable. The biggest ones are probably maintaining 2 websites, one of them being my course platform, that one costing a little bit more. I'll be honest, the course platform offsets itself very fast in cost. At the moment, I'm looking well beyond that $1,000 a year easily. And also software is a pretty big cost as well. This is an ongoing cost as well, so each year I am paying at least this on the upkeep of these particular aspects of the business. I can break down software for people looking to use similar software to me. The AEC collection from Autodesk is roughly $4,000 a year. Yes, it's a lot of money, but it's pretty much essential to deliver the services in BIM that I do. As well as this Dropbox, about $200. This is how I back up most of my files, and I have the associated liability and liability insurance to cover me for storing data in that way. As well as that, Enscape and Xero both cost me about $600 each per year, and both of them have definitely generated me either more time saved or more services than they cost as well. Rhino 3D I do use, but it is a one-off payment to buy it originally and then a one-off payment to upgrade it, so it's not an annual upkeep cost. So once you've got all these things organized, you need to prepare. You need to actually get ready to launch. So with this comes a few things. First of all, you obviously need hardware in order to run your business and deliver your services. I had to procure a laptop quite early on during my setup process for this, and also collect a fair bit of equipment so I could record training material and other aspects of my business. Branding, templating, and marketing are really important. So how is your business going to be found? Does it look professional? Is it obvious to the client what services you can deliver? I actually built my website and other aspects of my business before I even got anywhere near launching my business. I wanted to be ready to go with a website, generating articles, an active business from day one. From there, how do you generate your leads? What is your method for clients finding you? And how do you track and maintain them? I actually have a system in-house where I number all my leads to a system which allows me to filter and maintain which leads are active, cold, warm, hot. I classify them based on how likely they are to go through. So I have some leads that are sub-zero, barely likely to go through at all. But I like to keep them on record anyway, in case those clients come back with another project after they were a cold lead, because then I know I probably shouldn't put a lot of effort into pursuing that project with them. Because last time they went cold on me, well, now I'm going to go cold on them. So it's a really important aspect of the business to get right. One thing you cannot skip is insurance and legal assistance. These two aspects of a business are very tempting not to get. I know some consultants out there with no insurance, and no offense to you, but you are idiots. You should get insurance. If you don't have it, you will get caught out. I know one consultant who ended up with a really big problem with a client where they actually did damage to their IT network, and they as good as got sued. In the Australian market, suing isn't quite the same thing. There's mediation processes, but they ended up fairly out of pocket when they would have been covered by professional indemnity insurance otherwise. It's not that expensive compared to what it can cost you. Looking at the cost of these, most of my hardware when I put it all together was about $9,000. Yes, it's a lot, but it was a one-off cost. I do insure some of these assets, so some of my insurance relates to this as well. Insurance for me was about $1,200 a year, which is quite low compared to architects, what they pay. And legal in this case, I paid about $900 on a one-off to consult with a capable lawyer who helped me draft up agreements and contracts. And we just had some basic advice back and forth before I got started. So I knew that I was doing the right things. Like I said, don't skip out on these costs. They will bite you in the end if you don't work carefully in setting up your business. Like I said, you should be legally covered both in insurance and also in the contracts that you have administered, as well as that you should be audit proof, so don't use cracked software. I can't emphasize that one enough. There are so many people out there consulting with cracked software, and again, you are idiots. You really are. You're taking such a big risk in what you're doing, and no one is going to have sympathy for you when you get cracked on by an audit. As well as that, be efficient. Use systems that will cost money but save you money and time. For example, Xero, my accounting system, is a great example of a way that I do save myself so much time. I started my business using Excel and Word for invoicing, and it was a nightmare. I would have wasted so much time trying to maintain templates between documents, and as soon as I started using Xero, I went and took all of my old invoices and migrated them into Xero because it was so much easier having everything in one place. It gave me so much more visibility of what was going on week to week in my business, and it continues to. I recommend developing templates and filing systems so that you can really quickly access people in a system that makes sense. For example, I have a client numbering system that allows me to identify what type of client they are and also organize them and associate their invoice numbers to them as well. There are some savings I did make. In this case, I don't use any Adobe software. I'm not really a creative business in how I work. I use Revit and other programs to be creative, but for the most part, there are many free alternatives out there I can use instead of Adobe software. For example, PDF 995, DaVinci Resolve, and Photopea effectively cover me for what I need in the Adobe suite. As well as that, if you do get the opportunity, do try to partner or affiliate with add-in developers, because often they will give you access to their tools for times, and that can sometimes save you when servicing clients where those add-ins are relevant. Finally, make sure you do brand and market and account your own business if you can, because it will save you a lot of money. Branding and marketing is a very expensive exercise if you don't do it yourself. I would definitely have saved quite a lot of money even just through building my own logos, building my own identity, and as a result, it's more authentic. Step 3 is to actually promote what you're doing. There's no point in having a business if no one knows it exists. So you have to be actively marketing your business. I see way too many people start a business, get all excited, get 1 or 2 clients, and then just disappear. And they go head down, work with these clients, and you never hear from them ever again. Great that you found some big clients, but lame that you didn't actually create a business that keeps going. You need to make sure that you are present in the market just in case these clients actually say, that'll do for now, because suddenly you're going to be a business that doesn't exist amongst the competition. So be present. Also socially, attend events now that you can again. The pandemic is luckily wearing off in most places, and now you can actually be present in events where you may actually bump into potential clients. As well as that, get to know your competition. Be friendly with them. Don't actually be enemies with your competition. I know all my competitors in the market, and they're all great people. We can't service the whole industry at once on our own, so it's valuable to know them as well. Often I do send leads to other people that either suit them better than me, or I just don't have the time. And likewise, some of those come back to me as well. Follow up on leads as well. If you get someone that requests a lead, my rule is that I respond to every single lead that comes my way. Even if it is, I'm sorry, I'm too busy right now, it looks much better as a business if your business actually exists socially and does respond to people. You can get a reputation eventually if you're not careful for someone that doesn't really actually help clients when they reach out to them. I know a few consultants that have that reputation in the market around the world, and it's not a good place to be. Word does spread. It's good too to grow your network. I do rely on a lot of people on my network for information and answers when I have to go outside my field of expertise. As a consultant, that does happen quite frequently. And of course, above all, be authentic. Be you. You are your business. Don't try to be someone that you're not, because clients can see right through that. So having sort of started up your business, I guess the next thing is, how do you get clients? This is how I get clients, I guess. First of all, I'm authentic. I am my own brand. I'm on my website. It's me that they're coming to. They know it's me. I think that's really important. Don't hide behind a logo, behind a brand, behind a vision. Be that vision. As well as that, you need to show that you are actually an expert in your field, whether that means putting out articles, writing about what you do, or making your services very obvious on your website, or collaborating with industry partners to show what you are doing so people can understand you do know what you're doing. And of course, you have to be confident about that. Don't go to a client pitch with a set of notes that you read off. You'll lose the job, I guarantee it. As well as that, you need to be really clear with what you do. BIM is quite complicated. Most clients don't actually understand it. So sometimes you do need to break your services down in a way that doesn't just say BIM, 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 BIM. You need to actually tell them, okay, I can coordinate your project, which means I will work with your engineers and your builders, and we'll use the model to resolve all the issues that we come across. That's much easier than saying, I'm going to use BIM coordination in Navisworks. Remember, they don't even know what the software is half the time. As well as that, make sure you don't do too much. Some consultancies offer more than 10 services, and in my opinion, that can be too many sometimes. It's better to be clear in a few specific areas, because then you will get clients that are coming to you for specific needs that you are an expert in. Don't try to do everything and anything. But a huge part of how I get clients is actually my channel. That's why it's so hard when someone comes to me and says, I'm struggling to get clients, I don't know what's wrong, what can I do? I mean, sometimes my answer is just, where are you accessible? How do they find you? So many people find me here. I'm so lucky that I made this choice. Otherwise, I don't think my consultancy would have actually worked. And it's hard because I can't just tell someone, go and make a YouTube channel 2 years ago. I can say make a channel and come back 2 years later, but again, I don't know if they'll commit to it. Luckily, this channel shows people what I can do, and luckily most of my leads come from it as well. I don't actually use any cold calling. I do believe that in BIM, cold calling is usually a strategy which rarely works. I haven't seen it work too frequently, and if you are an outsourcer, cold calling can really be not a great way to find clients in most cases. You're essentially annoying someone until they choose to be your client. So I do recommend people to make content and articles and ways that people can find you in the short term if you need to actually show clients what you can do. You need to ask how clients find you, why will they trust you once they find you, and why will they come back? These are 3 really important questions that you should actually know all the time while you're consulting. If you don't know these things about your business, there's a problem. You need to identify these and constantly reevaluate them. This is an example of the types of clients that I work with, both broken down by the number of projects I'm working on, combined with the fees. Now, my fee was actually pretty heavily balanced in the first 6 months of working. But you can see that a majority of the projects I worked on were with individuals, and that makes sense because most people didn't really know what I could do yet. Individuals helped spread word of mouth for the next years to come, so this is quite unique for the first year. So I actually had a really good distribution of services. I did have a major client join me just at the end of this period, so you can see there's a construction client. I had a fairly big construction client, and they actually stayed with me for a majority of the financial year 21. You can see that both the number of projects I work with them on as well as the fee were a fairly large portion of my income. Having said that, I did also take on a secondary major client near the end of this year. I'm a consultancy firm, and they also became about a quarter of my associated income from consulting. We can see as well architects were roughly a quarter of both the fee and the project count. I find they're usually the easiest clients for me to get the fee just about right, so that I'm typically delivering a uniform service for the fee that I get. Sometimes it's variable for builders. For example, a lot of the builders I work for were very quick projects, very small fees. So in this case, you can see that's why about half my projects were construction, but maybe about a third were the total fees I charged. In the current year that I'm in, we can see that a large portion of my work has been with architects, but those projects have been a lot smaller and a lot quicker. Typically doing a lot of audit and strategy projects, but at the same time, I have been taking on work that I've classified as partial consulting, partial architecture, because one of my clients is a consultancy firm that I subconsult to, so I have sort of subclassified my work with them. So it's probably closer to about 50-50 on that breakdown on both sides of the fence. At the same time, I have had quite a few individuals come to me this year as well for mentoring services. So you can see whilst I do quite a lot of them, they're usually a very small fee associated with them because it's only 1 or 2 hours of work. So an interesting breakdown, and I have sort of tried to graph them a little bit later as well. But I guess in terms of what I do actually do, I can't describe it in too much detail because most clients don't actually give me permission to share what I do with people in an outward-facing manner. That's okay. I appreciate that not everyone wants to project that they are using consultants, and that's fine. But I have helped, for example, engineering firms to detail in 3D. I've looked at the production and template workflows for home builders and helped them do cost takeoff. I've automated workflows for a variety of clients, engineers, architects, and fabricators typically. trained some firms in how they can use Dynamo and Revit, and templated hundreds of clients indirectly through my course platform. I've also attended many conferences and written many articles and done many webinars and many other miscellaneous services. There's too many to talk about. This is an example of a project I did work on as a consultant. I worked with a roofing fabricator, in this case BlueScope. They had a roll-forming solution and were struggling to achieve a manufacturable object on the roof because it was a roof with a curvature. So I generated a dynamo algorithm for them, or a toolkit they could use to actually generate cut sheets in their model to achieve these forms, and also report the variables to a machine for cutting on site. So a really fun project. When I sort of look at the pattern of my income, it's always interesting to look at trends. So I guess like I took some key breaks in my business. January of the first major year, I did take a pretty significant break, and also in May, I took a pretty significant break as well. I had a really big month in April of my second year, so I did just have to give myself a break on the back of that. I worked really hard during that month and just took it easy the one after. As well as that, you can see that in my final year, these aren't quite to scale. I've had fairly consistent cash flow. April and June I'm still working on, so obviously they haven't quite reached there, and there's a couple of invoices from March I'm still chasing, so I haven't quite seen that uniformity, but for the most part I expect that to be quite even. In October I travelled to Adelaide for my birthday, I believe it was, so I guess that's why there's a little dip in there. But I guess on the back of that, it's good to talk about traps to avoid. I sort of touched on one there when I talked about taking a break, but the first trap to avoid is a really common one in consulting, and that is being put in a position where you're at risk financially or straining yourself financially. I see this as one of the biggest traps you need to avoid. This can happen in many ways, most commonly when you get given what I call the runaround, when you're invoicing. People that don't pay invoices don't respond when you chase them up, or you just get inconsistency in payment, progress payments from clients. It's very common. Businesses are busy, their finance teams don't pay invoices every day, but at the same time, some clients are very bad at just chasing up on invoices, whether intentionally or just through being disorganized. As well as that, often clients will try to change the brief after you've made the brief with them and agreed upon it in a proposal. Or you might just have very difficult clients to work with that need lots of little changes made, or they want to make 48 reviews every day. There can be a lot of difficult types of clients out there. There are many ways to avoid this from happening. I do recommend that if you can, try to work in an upfront payment into your payment process. That way your clients have already committed to some degree before you actually commit to the project as well. I think it's good to establish that layer of respect with a client. Some clients I expect full payment up front, then I work without having to worry about anything, and I deliver on time. And typically clients, once they've seen that once, will be happy to do it again because they know they'll get quality for service. As well as that, you have to brief very clearly and very carefully. Stick to the brief, stick to your promises, and go no further. Otherwise, your clients will know that they can slip more things in as they go, and before you know it, it becomes a regular thing. As well as that, if you have difficult clients, you can always drop them. I have dropped one client, not really for a bad reason, it just wasn't working out, and I think we both knew it. And you can also force them onto stop-start processes where you break down payments and services into very small pieces. And that will tell them, you are difficult and I need to manage you on small start-stop processes. It communicates to them that they're difficult without you having to tell it to their face. So do manage your clients before they manage you. As well as that, avoid the trap that you don't actually assess your competition properly, or you leave yourself vulnerable to the competition. You can often get undercut by competitors who are offering very cheap services. To be honest, most of the time they end up doing themselves in because they can't afford to deliver good service, and your clients find out the hard way. But as well as that, there is a marketplace saturation of consultants. There are a lot of BIM consultants out there. The pandemic did put a lot of BIM managers on furlough, or they got let go, and a lot of them decided to become consultants, unfortunately. I was very lucky that I did this slightly before the pandemic, so I wasn't really competing with them. I was already established. As well as that, you can just get lost in all the noise. Social media is very busy and loud. It can be hard to target your market very carefully. There are ways to avoid this. Of course, set reasonable fees for your client, but fair for you, and stick to them. Don't go down. Even if your competition goes down and your client says they're cheaper, that's fine. Let them go off and find out just how bad it can get. They'll come back to you every time, I guarantee you. And if they do, just stick to your fee. Don't raise it, don't be spiteful, just stick to it. It doesn't change. As well as that, make sure your marketing is clear, targeted, and consistent. That way your audience recognizes your brand, knows it's you, and actually engages with your content. As well as that, you need to make the content interesting. Practice creative writing, practice ways of engaging your audience. As well as that, look at video content, look at ways of engaging people without the need for them to read a post. Look at SEO optimization and also ways to abuse the algorithms on platforms like LinkedIn. For example, videos are quite highly promoted on LinkedIn. Probably one of the biggest ones and quite relevant to me is avoid personal toll and of course complacency as well. You're running your own business and it can be very easy to slip into bad habits if you're not careful. I won't say that I've been perfect throughout running my business. I've had to keep myself in check quite a lot and sometimes have failed. For the most part, I think I've done well. You have to avoid burnout. Burnout is super real. I've burnt out at least 2 or 3 times as a consultant and had to just take a week, 2 weeks, a month off in one case, just to get back to normal, just to get back to square one. It happens. If you burden yourself too much with the problems of other people, it will get to you. Whether they're clients or other people, it will get to you. As well as that, make sure you're organized. It can be easy to get disorganized when you're in charge because suddenly you're making money, everything's good, kick back and relax, right? No, you should be working harder than ever. As well as that, sometimes it's easy to get a lack of direction, especially when it's just you in a business, because direction is hard to maintain when there's no one there to criticize it or question it. So you need to question yourself. But I say avoid this by keeping yourself in check. If you can avoid burnout, the best way to do it is to actually just make breaks part of your regular routine. So try not to work too late. Try not to work weekends. Try not to just do crazy nights one night and then no work the next. Maintain routine. As well as that, this is momentum. So it's all based on setting goals. What do you want to do in a week's time, 2 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time? I keep a little notepad file on my desktop that just says, what am I doing this week? And I just keep myself in check that way. I used to use Notion and then I realized I was spending too much time writing all my boards up on Notion, so I just kept a notepad file. Keep it simple if you can. As well as that, make sure you do a bit of R&D here and there. Analyze your market. Keep yourself fresh. Make sure you know what's going on and that will give you the direction that you need. But don't just be burnt out all the time. And another one is it's easy to lose touch with the bigger picture when you consult, because often you'll be dealing with a smaller scale client, and with that comes a limited scale of opportunity. For example, I don't do a lot of project coordination, but this is part of my skill set. As well as that, you might lose contact with just typical office culture. When you work on your own, you work from home, it's quite different. And it can be easy to sort of forget how the rhythms of an office work. And of course, clients won't usually want you to share what you're doing with them, so it can just naturally reduce the amount of contact you have with the industry. There are ways to avoid this. Probably the main way is by diversifying the type of work that you do by targeting different types of clients. This comes down to research, but also choice. Choose what you want to do very carefully. As well as that, if you need to go part-time, do it. I mean, I'm probably going to talk about that soon. But I'm looking at a part-time involvement with a firm just to keep myself in contact with the industry and to make sure that I can still work with teams. And I've come across a good opportunity as well, I won't lie. But a part of that is I do want to maintain contact with large teams and large projects. And of course, build things that you can market, build side hustles, things that don't actually lock themselves into a client's pocket. So I have a lot of little side hustles, as I call them. One of them is my course platform and my content platform. And across the course of my time consulting, it's probably made me about a quarter of my overall income. And a lot of that is passive. And when I say passive, I had to build it in the first place. So there was still time involved in it. But now that a lot of it is set up, many people buy it, subscribe to it, and with that comes passive income. As well as that, I have some avenues that are very low in profit or no profit at all. For example, my YouTube channel makes me about $300 a month. Now, it's $300 I didn't have before, so I'm not going to complain. But at the same time, I couldn't rely on that as my sole income stream, and I never will. At the same time, I have some free projects like my Dynamo package Crumple and also my revit package revit, still very early days. Now, I've actually got clients through my Dynamo package. They've looked at something I did in my package and said, oh, this is cool, but we don't know how to put it into a script. Can you do that for us? And I'm like, yeah, great. We're consulting now. And off we went. So often a lot of my computational leads do come from the projects that I initiate. There are things I couldn't have set up without various things. So I couldn't have actually become a BIM consultant without all my experience at different levels of the industry. It's really valuable to understand how people work, not just at a management level, but at a technical level, a coordinator level, so that you have empathy for them, because often your clients won't just be business owners. They might put you directly in touch with the wider team. And you've got to remember, you're this consultant coming in, you think you know how it all works, they're not always going to take you seriously. If you can talk to them about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and say, I've done it, they will actually respect you for it. As well as this, I couldn't have done it without my YouTube channel. It gave me authenticity, it gave me reach into the market, and it also grew my network, which gives me reach as well. I couldn't have done it without my family, my friends, and especially my partner for the support along the way. That's probably one of the biggest things that you need if you're going to do something like this. You need the support of the people around you. Otherwise, it's very hard to push on. As well as that, I did need some financial savings so I could be comfortable. If I had a slow month, I've got money. I'm not worried. If you're going to go into this and this is, your only way to make money and you don't have a lot right now, it's going to be very stressful and you might focus too much on making money and not enough about making your business scalable or profitable. Now, my biggest challenge as a consultant right now, and one that a lot of consultants probably face, is how do you scale your business? You've got something that works, great. Now you want to make it do more. Well, how? There's a few ways to do it, and they all come with various drawbacks. You can hire more people, but of course this costs more money. You can work harder, but this is a much less sustainable way. Eventually you're going to burn out. As well as that, you can outsource, but with that comes a component of risk that you need to manage. Or you can commoditize your service, make it more standardized, make it a product. But with that, you might find incompatibility with your clients or potentially with the industry itself. You can't commoditize everything. But maybe your business doesn't scale. Maybe that's what I found. So one of my solutions to that is to sort of return back to the industry in a reduced and safer capacity. I am looking at joining one of my major clients part-time in a computationally focused role, consulting on a part-time basis around that. Now, because I've come in as a consultant from that direction, it's much safer for me because I already have my business established. I have its goals clearly laid out on paper, and there's less opportunity for a conflict of interest or a diversion of intellectual property to occur. I'm also managing my course platform continuously, but I probably will be reducing my commitment to the YouTube channel in the longer term. But this gives me the freedom to both consult to people I want to, but also to work with a larger team that I myself just probably wouldn't be able to build myself. And with that, I can work on larger and more complex projects on a part-time basis. So this is sort of my resolve to my own challenge as a consultant. And it's very important as a consultant to always sanity check yourself to make sure that you're heading in a direction that you want to. But I guess on the back of this, my biggest tips of everything I've put here, firstly, to not overextend yourself from either a professional experience perspective or also just to not burn yourself out on the work you are doing. Don't become a consultant if you're not ready, because it probably won't work. You have to plan. Plan. If you're not ready and prepared, and if you don't understand why clients are going to come to you, they won't. I guarantee you, you'll fail. If you plan and you know the plan works, or you have confidence in the plan, it works. As well as that, be authentic, be yourself. Don't lose yourself in business. You are the business. Market yourself authentically and clearly and targeting the clients that you want to work with, and it will happen. But you have to be yourself. If you do want to hear more, or you have questions about what I've said, or you're looking to start up as a consultant, do watch this video carefully. But if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to me here or via my LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to help. But thanks for watching, and as always, remember, it's not a race, don't rush. So thanks for watching, and if you're not already following and subscribing, feel free to do so, and I look forward to seeing you in future similar videos. Thanks, take care, bye.